Good morning, Miss Leslie. I am excited to hear about your storytelling. I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of storytelling courses out there, and I've taken some of them. I don't think I've taken enough because I don't have my storytelling down pat.
Well, I don't know that it should take more than one, right?
Well, you would think, but I was raised in a generation where we don't share our story. And so that comes into play, right?
Absolutely. Or I think, I ended up writing a book recently, and part of it was inspired, well, multiple reasons, but I was on a thread in Facebook and somebody asked a question about branding, right? And all these people jumped in, literally like 50 replies. You got to tell a story, you got to tell a story, you got to tell a story. And like I'm super curious, so I'm just sitting back watching. And at some point, the questioner said, "What does that even mean?" And I was like, "Oh, you're so right, right? Like we know we're supposed to, but how we do it simply instead of like you're talking about either not share enough or overshare or share
Right.
things that people go, I don't get it." So really like my brain always works like how do we make it simpler, easier, faster?
Yes. And it has to be also magnetic a bit and not boring. So
Right.
and you don't think about that, but when you're told not to tell, not to speak, not to say too much, right? Like I was raised, then it's like, okay, what do we say? What can we comfortably and safely say without giving out too much information? So
Right.
I did not know you or anything about your business, but I'd love if you share a little bit about your business and then let's dive right into storytelling.
Cool, cool. How exciting. Yeah, so I own Wild Woman Marketing. I did all the things marketing, right? And it was really through my own struggles as a life coach that I got into marketing. How am I going to figure this out? I did figure it out. But what really fascinated me about marketing was you could take 10 people and theoretically, if you're really clear on your story and who you serve, even though I wasn't using a story that at that point, right? But if you're clear on that and your messaging, every marketing technique should work for you theoretically. And it just didn't, right? So it really got me thinking about, okay, what is the key? And it's like, oh, story, because those are the people I lean in, right? Even if it's just a little teeny slice. And how do we make it so that it's really simple, that it's not this yeah, apologies to anybody that follows the hero's journey. And I think it was a great thing, but that formula, like I want to stab my eye out with a fork when somebody starts down that road, right? The big old long winding suffering and then the epiphanies and all the different steps. I'm like, oh, Lord have mercy. I don't have enough time in my life. Um, so yeah, how do we simplify it from that? And I don't think we need to go down that road. And my personal opinion is suffering is optional, right? I've had people come to me, they're like, well, I don't have the big, oh my gosh, I was living in my car and then I found this. And like, I don't think that's like, it's interesting maybe, but really, we just want to connect with human beings. And how do we do that through our story? So really, I help entrepreneurs. I know I get all windy, right? I help entrepreneurs get clear on their messaging, whether they're building a business or they want to scale a business. And then once we get really clear on that, how do we use our experience and our gifts to really leverage our business? Whether that's books or courses, speaking, how do you want to now take your message out in the world? It's super interesting. We get stuck in our stories, not only when we're beginning, but also then, like, I'm stuck in this plateau. How do I move to the next level? And really, it's building that story and that framework and almost creating that persona, like Sasha Fierce for Beyonce. I mean, we're normal humans, so why are we not using that tool to move ourselves to the next level in our business?
Very good, very good. And that's so interesting because I felt that exact thing when I went through my first storytelling course. And the girl was like, look, I had no internet. I had to go to the laundromat to do laundry, and that's where I decided to use internet. And my car barely made it there. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I can't relate. And I felt like maybe I didn't have anybody to connect to because I didn't have that kind of a story. You know,
Right?
mine
Which,
wasn't that.
yeah, I think that's such a valid point. Because yeah, you do hear it's like when so I have a couple degrees in psychology, and you get in those classes and people do these long stories, you're like, oh my gosh, like I had a pretty normal childhood. What am I doing here? Yeah, I can't relate to anyone, right? Um, yeah, so it really is optional. Our people, it's fascinating too that we say the right things, but sometimes we get them in the wrong position, or we don't give enough, or we don't like we tickle it, but like we're not going to commit, right? So yeah, I just think the whole long emotional roller coaster, it can be great if you have it, but then the other problem is people tend to overshare that and leave us in this weird funky space, right? Like I always think of this wonderful woman, and she would share a story about being homeless with her dogs. I mean, it's very traumatic, like, and you felt that, but at the end she kind of was like, oh, and then I found an MLM and it changed my life. I was like, okay, I feel bad. Like I don't feel inspired to buy from her. She kind of left me in this strange place that I'm like, I don't know how I get out of it. And that's all the feeling I have, right? So just really being intentional too with our stories and how they can inspire people to take the next action.
Yeah, it's too bad that they don't have with all of the AI that's going on. They should have like a bot that I can plug all my story in and they can filter it and give it back. Because I know that there are other midlife women like me that maybe don't have to work that but they also lack purpose, and they need something to get up and nurture every day. I know they're out there. I just don't know how to connect and how to share that all the time.
Exactly, right? Like your people are there. And I think that was a lot of frustration for myself and then the people I tend to work with, right? Like we know they're out there. We know we have something valuable. What it's this communication piece that's kind of missing of how we reach them, how we let them know that we can help them, without like I always say how, and then I'm like, not the how, right? Not the steps, because nobody cares how you do something. If you say, I can
Right.
get you from A to B, we don't
Yeah.
really care how that happens. We just want to get from A to B.
Right. Exactly. And I remember I was talking the other day to my friend, and I had a very good upbringing. I know there were a lot of Gen X kids that maybe didn't, and yeah, I drank out of the hose and I was kicked out of the house on Saturdays so that my mom could clean or whatever was going on. But when we had dinner, it was a very proper setting. We had dinner every day together, but we didn't speak at the dinner table.
Oh, how fascinating,
Just don't
right?
irritable. It was the weirdest thing because I can't get anybody to shut up in my house. I'm like screaming, "Hey, time to bless the food!" So they'll be quiet so we can bless the food, even. And I like
Right,
that way. I think that's where we come together. But it wasn't that way when I was raised. Like we really were really truly raised with don't talk. Just
right,
carry it inside yourself, and we don't talk about things. So
right. And how many women, like I'm including us all here and everyone out in cyberspace as well, have either had our voices squashed or that experience of, oh, you don't have anything to say, or you say something totally ignored, pardon me, but a man says it, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the most amazing idea ever. So I think there's a lot of cultural things too about sharing as well as the vulnerability. When I wrote a book, recently, I picked up a hater, and it was a man. And it was super interesting, right? And again, I'm kind of curious. So he popped in. I was like, ooh, let's see where this goes, right? So I responded back. I didn't block him right away, but note to self, just block him and move on. Don't even be curious. And he had during the night responded to all these women who were supporting me around the book. But so yeah, then I was like, okay, game over, dude. No, no more playing. You're blocked. It's over.
right,
But I also had this feeling of that squashedness of I could, right? I could let that because that's my training kind of make me shrink down and be smaller than I am, or say things in a different way, be more acceptable, whatever you will. So I really thought about that and I was like, wow, that's really one of the things that's hard about marketing. Because when we're marketing as women, we have to put ourselves out there. And there's always going to be someone, right, who will take issue, even like, I mean, the book is about storytelling, for crying out loud. Like what offensive is that, right?
Right.
But yeah, it really made me very hypersensitive and started talking about that way more, just accepting that, realizing it's going to happen, and making that choice to continue on. Because there's way more people who support us than not. But we all know sometimes it's that voice that triggers all sorts of stuff in our own heads.
Absolutely. So what steps or what, if you were speaking to me specifically, which you are kind of, but to everybody, to midlife women, what steps, where do we start to get to the root of our story? And then also to know what's valid and I don't want to say okay to share because I feel like people are okay to share anything with me. Like you can share anything, but I want to only share with my audience things that are pertinent that would help bring them in and help make me relatable when I am probably the most vanilla, for lack of better words, person on the planet. I just don't have, I have no excitement in my life, which is good. I pray for days like that because when we've had excitement, it's been bad excitement. So, I mean, I'm a farm girl. I stay home, except I go to town to go to church. And I go to town to get my hair and nails done once a week. And then I go with my sister shopping maybe once a week. I just don't go anywhere or do anything. I play with my grandbabies. Very boring. So,
Yeah. Well, I think it sounds amazing. And honestly, like you said some things, right, that are so like when you say farm girl, I don't know about anybody else, but like that has some certain connotations of values to me, right? When you say vanilla, like I personally love vanilla cooking wise. I think of cookies and sort of this warm, inviting um scent and experience. So I think sometimes it's like we think we don't have something exciting, but just being who we are is plenty enough and tapping into those unique things. The simplest like framework that like because there's all sorts of frameworks and I typically do like a kind of a 4 step, but this one's even easier than that. And then I tell the people, think about there and there being what made you come to here? What made you do what you're doing now? Because usually, right, even if it's like, I noticed there was a need in the marketplace, or this was a problem for me that I wanted to solve, whatever it is that brought you here. What's exciting about here? Oh my gosh, I get to bring women together to support each other, to empower each other, to share their knowledge, to create this community because women rise together. And there, you know where we're going? Like, we're going to change the freaking world, right? We're going to take over the bus. We're going to get some stuff done and women power all around, right? Like, that's a super easy and simple example that we all have that kind of there, here, there. And you know what, really, so we don't need to spend a whole lot of time in the there, a little bit of time in the here. People get really excited to know our mission and our values, right? Like where we're headed, like come on the train with me kind of thing.
I like that. I like that. Does anybody have anything to add? Maureen and Jean? Is it Jean or Jeannie?
It's Jeannie, actually. Yeah.
Jeannie.
Um, I mean, I have so many things going on in my mind, but I wanna, which I can talk about. But I don't know, Leslie, if we're gonna talk a little bit more or have you more information before I go down the rabbit hole of some of my things that are going on in my head. So I because the reason I'm here, I guess I should say, is because for the same reasons with Colleen. is that I mean, I have so many stories that have impacted me that are there's there's many fairly traumatic spiritual experiences I've had that influence and have is the reason that I want to offer my services to help women. Um, and so I think that's where I have trouble is like the path to how I've gotten here to now how I know how to help women find who they really are, clear all the old energy blocks that they have, step into their purpose, almost had to be to some extent, because this is my life journey, pretty um traumatic. And now it's over and done with. Like, so, well, it's not over and done with, but you know what I mean? Like the big, huge services that I was provided, the grace and these experiences were heavy. Yet I see the whole purpose in them now. I wouldn't be able to help the women the way I can help them without that.
Right.
And then there's other things. So I guess that's would be my first question is how in the world do you, because some of these things need to be known so that they're like, oh yeah, she can help me. Like, oh my God, yeah, now I see why. But I don't want to say too much.
Right, right. No, and I think, yeah, and that especially happens to us too, right? Because we bring all this knowledge, all this along our journey with us, right? So the one, maybe one or two things I'd say is one, so think about your goal anytime you tell a story. And
Hmm.
all we want to think about is how can it open the door to the next step, right? Um, so that's super important when we're telling stories and using them strategically instead of just telling. Like we always have a goal that might be, and I tell people, don't even worry about the sales, right? It's just opening the next door, whatever that is, because then sales will naturally come out of that. And then two, um, you're right. Sometimes less is more. I worked with a woman recently and she said, there's no way I can get my story down to, because I did a boot camp and I was like, you got to get a story down to 4 sentences. She's like, no way, no way, no way. I'm like, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you. She came back the next day or the next session. She's like, oh my gosh, I got it down to 4 sentences. But what she really realized, because then when we went on to talk about social media, was now she had 6 months of content because we got a super narrow kind of description that left room for exactly what you're talking about, right? Gave people that slice that now you could go a little more in depth in your posting, in your blogs, in your podcasts, whatever you're using to give people a little bigger picture, a little bigger picture, a little bigger. The thing, and that's why I try to get people to keep it simple, is our brains need a really simple path, right? I was blessed with the simplest of brains because if I don't understand it, nobody understands it. Um, but when you get so many things going on, it's really hard to build all the bridges you need to build. So honestly, exactly what you said. Like I've been through some really heavy experiences, but the
Mm.
blessing in those was it brought me to a place of understanding and knowing that I can help you get to whatever your next level is.
So this is recorded because that was great. Thank you.
Jeannie, can I just,
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I
yes,
say
of course.
brilliant stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what I said.
And Jeannie, I want to say to you that when you say what Leslie just said that way, I look at you and I feel like I know my own traumas, and that draws me to you and makes me say, I want to hang on to her and I want to know more and I want to see what she developed and how she got where she is because those are
Mm.
probably things that can help me even though I'm not in something traumatic right now. No, but none of us, let's be honest, none of us got here without some really intense stuff going on in our lives. We
Right.
just didn't, and we don't have to, especially for Gen X, we're not going to wear that on our sleeve like, look what I did. But we know that. And so that quiet strength is what would draw me to you to look
Hmm.
at your content. So if I understand right, Leslie, you're saying that if she has her 4 sentence story, then she could take from sentence one and expound 6 different ways, sharing a little bit more of how that story got her to this point or to experience this so that she learned this technique or this concept. Is that correct?
Absolutely. No, I think you put that very brilliantly. As well as then, when you kind of have that core thing, you have a little flexibility, believe it or not, because you kind of know like, oh, I got this that I say, but I know I'm in a group of healers. So I'm gonna add this tweak to it, or maybe as Colleen said, a little bit more how something that is specifically for that audience. So now, right, your pitch doesn't sound exactly the same. It just adjusts as you go from audience to audience.
I see. I love that. I love that. And I don't know why that resonates so much better than some of the other storytelling things I've heard.
Keep it simple.
Yes. So going forward, Leslie, I want to hear about your book too. Don't forget to tell us about, have you only written one?
Yes. Yeah. I think I have two more planned, right? But
Okay.
yeah, it kind of, yeah, it was a crazy deal that I don't know if I would have written one, but I got an opportunity to take one to an event kind of with a super short time span. I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what the universe is calling me to do, and I'll jump in and do it. So
Okay, so make sure you tell us all about your book at the end, but I didn't mean to interrupt you anyway. So continue telling us your storytelling strategies.
sure. Did you have a question, Maureen?
I didn't have a question, but just a statement on what Colleen was saying. She thinks that she doesn't have a story. And I think that each one of us can, when you're living in your own life, it's hard to kind of see what's going on. But of course, you do have a story and you're living it every day. And the fact that the life that you live is not a normal life that everybody lives. And so that is your story,
Yeah, I think
just
I
because you
forget that
think that you
because
don't have a story. Like there's so many women out there that would die to live your life, the vanilla lifestyle, you
Right?
know?
There you go. Yeah, that's a great kind of like a tagline, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I'll write that down. I do like that actually. And I guess I forget, I forget that it's
Well, yeah, and I always say too, you could have 10 people take the same course and then they're going to do the same thing with it. It's going to end up 10 different ways because of the experiences we have, who we are, our basic personality. Yeah, so everybody absolutely has a story. And I think that's why I love storytelling, right? Because when I travel, honestly, sometimes in Walmart, even people are like wanting to tell me a story. But it really is interesting, and we really are driven by that need to share and be heard.
I agree. I agree. And then I think it's just a matter of, I'm just going to go back to like it always makes me nervous. It almost makes me want to throw up to share different parts of my story because I feel like I was just raised to not do that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, though, like, let me try and empower you a little bit here, right? Because I hear this a lot. I'm not a marketer. Yep, you are. All of us, and all of us listening are marketers. I had a woman sell me a turkey in Walmart the other day. One, I'm not really keen on turkey. Two, she didn't work for Walmart, right? But I left with a turkey. So, like, I know we are all marketers. We just need to get a little bit out of our way because what we do is so special. again, guaranteed everyone listening, everyone on this panel, and people are looking for your services and need you. So reframing that to there are people out there that need to hear my message because I can help them, makes it a different conversation than I'm just out there marketing.
This is true. This is true. I think that also for me and maybe for many other women, I feel like I have no problem. Like if I saw a sister, a mother, a daughter, another woman that I knew that my story could have an impact on, if I saw her in Walmart, wherever, I would absolutely be like, look, I've been there. Come here. You're going to be okay. Talk her through it, tell her the things. But for me, there's such a vast difference between that and broadcasting it to millions. And it doesn't make me nervous that there's millions of people. It makes me feel like maybe it's too much private information out in the world. I don't, like.
Yeah, well,
But
yeah.
then I think, what really, honestly, if you come to the bottom line of it, what woman, there are some out there, but very few women who are empty nest moms, midlife women, wake up every day and are excited to have no purpose. There are just very few that are excited to not have a purpose. I think that it's innately a part of us that God put in us to want to nurture and love. And we have to have something. And if we can transfer that from our children a little bit, I mean, obviously I'm still there for my children. They just don't need me as much. But to have a business that I can get up and take care of and nurture along the way and take up my brain cells, then that helps me to find a purpose that otherwise I literally would get up in the morning and be like, I just don't have anything I really have to do. Nothing matters if I do it or not,
Right. Well, and I think like, I don't know, right? I struggle sometimes when you make broad generalizations, and then other times I'm like, yeah, it's the way it is. But women, right? We want to improve the world. Like it's very ingrained in us, and I think it's part of like the community, right? Women are very community. We understand teams because we're leaders of teams, right? Family, inherently, whether at whatever level family means to you. So I think, yeah, there is something about women and especially a second act going, you know what? I did all these things. Maybe I did a corporate job, didn't feel right, but I needed the money. I did it for the family. And now is a time that I really want to follow that purpose, that I really want to go out in the world and make change. And I think whatever our political or opinions are about the world, that really we do need to make change. We need to bring more love, more acceptance, gratitude back into the world and our communities. And I think women are the key to that. So yeah, I love what you're saying. And yeah, really supporting other women. Sometimes we haven't had that support. And I see there's a real resurgence of coming together as communities, knowing that to make change, right, we need to join arms.
Right. Yes, absolutely. It definitely does. Life is better with a village.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, you can only build anything with a village, right? Those people like, I did it all alone. No, you didn't.
Yeah, no.
This
Jeannie, you
is
had
Bev.
something to
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you brought up a question in that Colleen, I feel like you're touching on this maybe because of where we are in life and how we really kind of had zero technology when we were younger. So like I guess the thing that and so I'm a spiritual and inner work coach, and so I'm always going inward and questioning, so is it really the technology that's bothering me or is it something else? So obviously I'm doing that for myself, but I keep coming back to this and to me there's a difference. I know Colleen touched on this. Like in person, there's no barriers. Like I could talk about how I could help people, blah, 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 go on forever and be all excited. But there's something about the formatting and the way the algorithms are and all of this stuff that like causes this sort of barrier barrier, like, and I've had coaches for myself that are like, are you sure it's a barrier, Jeannie? Or, what, stuff like that. But I'm still questioning that. And I wonder if you could touch on that, Leslie, a little bit about, because there is a skill set that is different than speaking, impromptu to someone versus, writing your message in 4 sentences and then somehow getting the algorithm to work for us in order to get our message out there. What is your take on that, or what are other people's opinions about that?
That's a really interesting question, especially the way you framed it, right? One thing too that I was going to say to Colleen before we get is really we are always just talking to one, right? Even if there's 1,000 people, you're talking to that one that needs to hear your message. So I think sometimes that can like keep us a little more grounded and human, right? I'm just talking to one person. There might be 10,000 out there watching, but I'm just talking to the one. And Jeannie, interesting. So I think like you can clarify, right? If I don't exactly hit your question, because there's multiple levels here. So I'll just kind of go with one thread and see where it takes us. I'm a huge fan of AI, like tell you right up bat. So I wrote a book in 30 days. Could not have done it with AI, without AI, right? But I also had a plan, like I knew where I could use it, where I couldn't, and like I'm super crazy organized that way. So I think AI is gonna, if you're not using it, I encourage everybody because it's a game changer in so many ways. Like I am so much more creative, honestly, with AI because it can do some tasks that I'm like, nah, like not for me, right? So I can offload those and use AI to streamline them. But two, this idea of technology. So I do some energy healing as well. This is not a barrier for me with that. I can do it just as effectively this as human beings. I think it's just we need to let this out of our minds, right? We are still connecting, we're still sharing energy even on here. And yeah, like is that headed where
Well,
you're
I have very few qualms about being on video and like of course with COVID and then you're on Zoom and so I kind of got over that a long time ago. I think it's more of, and now you did touch maybe with AI, but you know it's the written formatting of the posts and then the unknown algorithm that I find frustrating. Because I'm so excited to like share my work and I want to help people. And I'm like, I get so excited. And then I frankly then all of a sudden I feel this sadness come over me a little bit. Like, because I'm like, nobody's responding to my post.
Oh.
And, or nobody who's seeing it. I mean, maybe I have to do more videos, I guess. But anyway, that's just anyway, yes,
Colleen and I
anyone.
talked about that the other day, didn't we, Colleen?
Yeah, and I think it's lack of connection. Like you're thinking, I'm not connecting.
But put it out there. People, even if they're not engaged, you don't think they're engaging, they are seeing your content. Because how many times have you had somebody come back and work with you later on that was like, oh yeah, I saw your content, or how much longer later have I had somebody come back and they're like, yeah, I saw you on Facebook, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know people
Right.
were seeing anything I put out there. So I think whether or not you think they're seeing it, they're just not. Yeah, I mean, that's my take on it,
Well,
Leslie.
and
I
I
don't know what
said
yours.
to was it last week we spoke with Irene, I think. Um, and I told Irene I followed her for 8 months because
Right.
she is vivacious. She is very vibrant. Her personality, she's magnetic, And so I followed her, like I looked for her stuff and followed her intensely until I had the courage to reach out to her and connect. And I'm so glad I did. But 8 months I followed her. And I don't think every once in a while I might have liked something of hers, but I don't think that I interacted. And so that's the perfect example of what Maureen is talking about, is that like I followed for so long. But I understand too, because I feel like if somebody would just comment, then you know that there is at least a connection, because I could talk to myself and my dog all day long. I do. But when you're talking to the internet and not getting a response, it's like, okay, maybe it was too much. Maybe it's not right. Maybe I didn't make the connection. Where when we're in person, we see their eyes, and I can look at Leslie and go, this is resonating with her. She understands. Or maybe I can feel like I need to back up a little bit and rephrase it so she does understand. But we don't get that feedback and that connection online. And so that I feel like, is that kind of
Well,
this way, Jeannie?
yeah, and I think that that goes to everything Leslie's talking about too, is that how do you know, like if you're just, crafting your message, like you're just starting to try to figure out what people resonate with. Well, you can never figure out what people resonate with if get no response. Well, not never, I shouldn't say never, but like there's yeah, there's something about this. Yes, be patient, and things like that. But I guess I have this I don't know if you guys know about Gene Keys, but like one of my it's kind of like human design, but one of my spheres is patience and impatience, and so I know that that's one of my life's work things. So I go back and forth. But then sometimes you're like, like my husband is kind of like he almost doesn't even want to know what I'm doing. He's kind of a little bit like that little, like, well, nobody's calling you up and, hiring you left and right. Like, so what are you doing? Just,
And I think that with that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leslie or Maureen, if you have a better take on it, I feel like you do have to keep just putting it out there. And you have to keep putting it out there with the same sort of tone in the background, so that when I see you and it does resonate, and I go, oh yeah, that's the girl I like. And so then I keep looking, whether I'm responding or engaging or not. But that's the important part of being authentic, and also your authenticity has to be balanced with your 4 sentences, I think, so that it's over and over, you're hearing that. But when I see people that aren't doing it authentically, that are trying to share a story in a very aesthetically pleasing way, that their personality isn't shining through, it really is more of a swipe moment for me.
I totally agree with what Colleen just said. I actually unfollow people if they get too slick, just because I feel like it's all sales and there's no spirit, there's no passion coming through. So, and I wouldn't worry too much if you're not getting a lot of engagement when you're just starting out. I have a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, it gives you an opportunity to keep crafting your work and putting it out there without all the intense pressure of, oh, the whole world is watching me. So it gives you a little bit of grace, an opportunity to hone your skills. The other thing I wanted to just go back, Leslie had talked about AI a little bit, and I absolutely agree with you. I think AI is wonderful. I think you have to have your own content to begin with. So when I use it, what I do is I just do a dump. I write what I want to say out on the page, and then I put it into Chat GPT or Claude.ai or Napkin if I want a diagram. But what that is more like an editor or a helpmate. So it takes what you've written and it does all the editing for you. So hours and hours and hours that you may spend editing your content, it does that for you. It's almost like having an assistant, but you have to be very careful to go back to that content that they have created then and go through it and make sure that it's still your voice, it's still your message. So I think it's almost like having a free assistant. That's the way I look at it. Um, And the other thing you said, Leslie, that really resonated with me, you talked about women who maybe had a corporate job because they needed money for the family and so forth. You were speaking to me. I am one of those people. And now at this stage, and I also had my side hustle, which was where my passion lay. And at this stage, I'm actually following my passion. So I'm putting together, I'm at the initial stages of taking an old in-person business and putting it together into more of an online business. And that's my joy. And if I make money, that's wonderful. But if I don't make, a whole lot of money, like you take these courses and you hear about people making $10 million through their internet stuff. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm pushing my content out, or I will be. I'm doing it in a very sort of laid back way. I'm not pressuring myself to get up and get running, but I'm sending out what I think is important and where my passion is. And I just trust that those where that resonates with them, they will find me. And if they don't find me, well, then they weren't my ideal client. They're not my people. So I think we can all get caught up in looking at numbers and so forth. But I think you really have to hone your craft and earn the right to have a client or multiple clients, whatever,
Congratulations. That's awesome, Bev.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would try to write it down, right? Because I forget. But yeah, the social, I totally hear what you're saying, Jeannie. So one, is everybody familiar with Alignable?
No.
Yeah, I am.
Alignable is a great thing for this reason. You get to meet a gazillion people in a very short amount of time. You can practice your pitch all day long if you wanted, right? You could practice your story because exactly what Colleen was saying, you see people lean in or people lean out. Sure, they're not going to be your people, but people are going to react to your story whether they're your people or not, right? You'll know like, oh, like I don't get what she's talking about, or like that was too much, or oh, that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure I would use it, but it's still interesting. So, or another networking thing. Networking is just great to get iron out all that kind of stuff. And then two, I really agree with everyone else. Social media, we get really hung up, and I know people with lots of following and don't get hardly any comments on their posts. And I can't tell you how many people have said to me, oh, I see you're doing this. Or they come into my world. I'm like, how'd you find me? Oh, I love your posts. They have never commented on a post, never made any indication that they saw it. In fact, I had a friend reach out, say, hey, congrats about the book. I was like, he never put anything on a post. And like, I yacked about it for months, right? So some of that is just the way it works, right? I just think about it as a billboard. You just want your name, your business out there so people keep seeing it, keep seeing it, keep seeing it, and it is registering.
Okay, ladies, I'm going to drop the link to Alignable in the chat. I want all of you to go join this. Kayla, I'm so glad you're here. I know you're muted and your video's off. Glad you're here. Bev, thanks for speaking up. It's good to have you here too. Maureen introduced me to Alignable and I joined, and I have been a little bit negligent and not like just jumping in and interacting, but that is actually my top goal for the week on my little paper is to interact in Alignable. So crazy that you mentioned that, but really join that. And then also in here, if we're not friends yet, let's drop your handle or your website or your email or whatever you want to drop in the chat so that we can all connect and continue to support each other. Now, Leslie, before we get to your book, or maybe you need some time to think. I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but I think you can handle it. I want you to give us some actionable steps. Leave us with actionable steps that we can do to really get comfortable in our story and have the clarity and confidence to present it. So before we leave today, let's do that, but also share your book. Don't forget that.
Okay. Yeah. So really, I think about like, we'll do another little framework, right? And this can be for social posts or anything, because, and it sort of helps with that. So many times people, like a guy told me the other day, he told me a story, he told me what he's doing. And I was like, I don't get it. How are they connected? He's like, oh, they're not connected. I was like, dude, okay, one, don't ever tell me a story that doesn't have a bridge, right? Because my brain frizzles out and I won't hear anything else you say because I'm like, how's it connected? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So beginning, middle, and end. And that's kind of what we talked about, the here, the there, here, there. And then the lesson. Okay, what's the lesson? When you get really clear on your story, I guarantee everything in your life is going to be a lesson. I had a skunk fall in the window well twice last summer. The first time animal control hauled him up and she said to me, we're in the yard. She's like, where do you want him turned up? It's like, I don't feel like that's a good solution, but apparently it's the only one. She turned him out into my yard. And little tiny skunk, he was super adorable. He chased me all over because I was trying to shoo him out so the dog could come out. But what I realized was our branding should be like a skunk's, right? People should know what we stand for. Love it or hate it, you get what a skunk means. So that's really what I want is that. So everything now, your social posts, beginning, middle, end, what's the lesson? What's the less of a call to action as a lesson? How do I bring this all together and say, this is what I did, this is where I am, this is where I'm headed. This is a lesson that I'm giving to you of how I can help you. That could be a lesson, how I can help you, right? So yeah, does that give you, and again, that's a perfect place, Alignable, don't sign up for the paid version, go with free, yeah. And
I did the free one. So Leslie, I'm going to say to you that your little lesson thing, I am glad this is recorded. I'm going to play it for my kids because every time I see a dead squirrel on the road, and I live in the Ozark Mountains, so there's a lot of them, and I have a child with me, I'm like, okay, do you understand what happens when you're indecisive? Now you have to take a nap in the middle of the road like a dead squirrel because you have got to make a decision. Left or right doesn't matter. Just make a decision, So, and my kids are always like, God, Mom, why is everything got to have a life lesson? Well, because
there you go. There you go. Exactly. Right. And you can even bring that into your business. Yeah.
And I'll tell them all the time, look, the road is covered with indecisive squirrels. Be something different.
You don't want to be one.
Yes.
I love that. I'm going to think about you every time I see a squirrel now.
My daughter doesn't. She's like, it's not napping, Mom. It's not napping. Just couldn't make a decision yet. But tell us about your book.
No, did you have a question, Jeannie? We'll get to.
Oh, I guess one other question I had was, to make yourself be, because there's so many people out there, obviously, and to show your uniqueness or what it is that you bring to the table that maybe others don't. And mine has to do a little bit with my process. But I know I don't want to be talking about like what we're going to be doing and how do you balance that out, in your messaging? I'm assuming it's probably just like one sentence or something or.
Exactly. Or even something like, because of all this, I created a system, right? Then we're like, ooh, okay, she clearly set it up. She's been through some stuff. She got to where like we want to be. We're curious about that system now. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, not getting into the nitty gritty because again, like the wiring in here frizzles out and we're like, I don't know, yeah. But all you have to say is I created a system or I created a framework, right? Framework's kind of like a big word right now. Or whatever, a plan, a roadmap, whatever wording works for you. I think it can be as simple as that. You could even then say a unique one, a one specially designed for women. If you wanted to put something around that. And you made an excellent point kind of inadvertently, I think, but your story really is a thing that makes people stand out, right? Because it's so unique to you. And it doesn't have to be all crazy. It just has to be you. And people go, oh, like I've not heard that before, right? Because like we all got a slightly different version and a different story. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I mean, and then there's only one other piece to this, and is that how much of like, you know, you probably already answered this of the life-changing event. Like, again, I had this super crazy spiritual event that happened that was like nutso. And I mean, I wouldn't say it like that to people, but I mean, it catapulted me into a different level of existence. Like, how much of that do I say? Because that really is an important piece of why I can help people.
I think exactly what you said, right?
Okay.
Like, we don't need to know if we're interested or we've had a similar experience, we're going to lean in and want to know more. And I think that's where you can, as you're out in the social world, right, share more in posts or podcasts or blogs or on your website. Or, if you're in networking and somebody's interested, then you could give them a little bigger slice of that.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Like we
thank you.
want it, we want to tell everybody, right? Because it really was like an epiphany.
Mhm.
But you just don't need to do it right up front.
Okay, okay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that
Cool.
makes sense. All right, this is your chance to plug your book, and
I know. I was like, I even got it laying here, which sometimes I don't. Yeah, turn your story into business gold. How the ultimate guide to stories that sell.
Do you have a
So,
link for it?
what's that?
Do you have a link you can drop?
Sure. And actually, it's on Amazon as a Kindle, an ebook right now for 99 cents.
Let me go pull that. I can drop that.
Okay. Yeah. And it's a little bit of a crazy story, honestly. Like I said, I clearly had a book in me because did it in 30 days, but uh, through someone I know, I got to pitch the idea of a book to a woman who runs an Oscars gifting lounge. And she's like, "Oh, I love that idea." And I was like, "Holy crikey," because she said, I have to have physical copies by the 1st of January to me. And so I knew when I undertook it that it would be 30 to 40 days of writing and then the rest. So it was truly sort of a download kind of thing. But I did, like, I loved the writing process. And, like Bev said, clearly had all the ideas and just how can I use other tools. And I call AI or chat even my VA on steroids, right? How can I use that to leverage my own ability to accomplish this kind of task? Oh, and something that Jeannie said too, video. So I did 30 days of video, right? Of how do you write a book in 30 days and like what happened, and um another kind of little funny aside. So I'd written a lot of the book when I started the videos only because I knew I couldn't split my focus. And about 3 days into filming the videos, I was committed to, I think I did 40 days maybe. Committed to that. I fell down 8 concrete steps, gashed my head open, had a like road rash across my face. The first thing, I was in the urgent care waiting to get stitched up because it was a big gash. And a friend texted me and she said, in this book, because she was a beta reader, she said, "You're talking a lot about going to the Oscars gifting lounge. What if that doesn't happen?" And I replied, I was like, "LOL. Apparently, short of death, I'm taking this book to the Oscars because I'm in the urgent care getting stitched up and figuring out how to write the rest of the day," right? It was sort of a blessing in disguise. For 2 weeks, I literally did write because I didn't want to scare anybody on screen. But I also just set up my video camera in the garage and put on sunglasses and went on with the videos. But the reason I'm telling you this, let me build the bridge, is I've had so many people after that say to me, "I loved your videos because there were days I was in my beanie. There was days I got back from the gym and I just saw a video, no makeup. Like it was a little raw on occasion, right?" And they said, "But it made me realize that I could do that I didn't have to be perfect when I did it." So I'd encourage anybody like 30 days of anything. One, you're going to figure out a system because the first couple days is going to take you forever. And you're like, oh, I cannot do this, right? How can I streamline? And two, by the end of 30 days, you're going to be, hey, I'm just shooting a video. I don't even care what I look like. I got to get it done today, right? So it does eliminate that perfection and forces us to create a system that works for us.
I love that. I love that. And just so you know, I ordered the hard copy because
Thank
I
you.
love books. I have so many books, but I don't think that they just like books aren't a thing anymore. And I have bookcases of books, and they're all by category. I'm a little bit like that. Yeah. They're all categorized. And I want them for my posterity, especially my business books. Because I come from a long line of entrepreneurs and I want my kids and grandkids to know these secrets. And even if things up and change and they're doing things different in 20 years, I want them to see what I had to do. I want them to
There
know
you go. I
this
love
is what
that.
I
Yeah.
have to do. So I'm so excited to get that. Also,
Oh,
I focus so much better when I can just hold it in my hand and read it. When things are going in my ears, it makes me nervous.
right. Well, that, and I'm not, they got, you guys, this will be a surprise to everyone, right? That I got a little bit of the squirrel brain. So if the book isn't super engaging, then I'm like off in Netherland. I'm like, oh, I don't even know what they're saying at this point.
Yep, yep. Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate everybody coming out. I am going to end this recording. Stay on for just a second. I can't find the button. Sorry, it's behind my camera.